Welcome to another edition of 50 Years and Still, where we highlight Costa Mesa businesses that have been around for 50 years or longer and are still going. I'm Chris Cuthill, and I'm a member of the Costa Mesa Historical Preservation Committee. I've lived in Costa Mesa my entire life, and I want to introduce you to one of my favorite things to do in Costa Mesa, Costa Mesa Speedway. So there's a lot of things to do in California, no doubt, but with prices getting out of control, this is one of the very few things there are that's actually affordable for a family to come and do. And all you have to do is come one time and you'll be totally hooked. These motorcycles are air-cooled, which makes them a lot simpler than most forms of motorcycles. There's also no transmissions. These have what's known as a direct drive. All there is a clutch, so basically the power goes straight from the engine straight to the rear wheel as soon as you dump that clutch. But even though these bikes are more simple than most motorcycles, there's still a ton of prep that goes into making one of these things fast. You have to get your tire pressures right, you have to get your wheelbase right, you have to get your front suspension right. There's a lot of aspects to it that are really important to pay attention to.
The motorcycle's unique in that they're extra light and powerful. The racing is awesome because every seat is right on top of the bull ring oval. And in 3 words, speedway racing is fast, colorful, and unpredictable. My dad was a motorcycle manager of Millen Brothers Motorcycles in Pasadena, California. And his boss, the owner of Millen Brothers, was 1937 World Speedway champion and America's first motorsports world champion, a gentleman named Jack Millen. And Jack Millen saw a spark in my father and thought he'd be a likely candidate to get the sport going again. The sport had been dormant largely since World War II. So in 1968, they went to a little place called Whiteman Stadium and did a couple of events. And they liked what they saw, and that winter they found the sleepy Orange County Fairgrounds. And after tons of meetings and learning, and my dad had never been to a speedway motorcycle race before he promoted one. But Jack Millen knew the blueprint and had the knowledge on how the program works, how the presentation should be, and we developed this 2-hour and 15-minute 40 events, and 2 hours and 15 minutes is really quite spectacular program, and it's non-stop racing. There's a race every 3 minutes, and the longevity of Costa Mesa Speedway goes back to its fan friendliness and us just being true to the original format by our founder and hero, Jack Millen.
So what makes Costa Mesa Speedway special for me is I used to come here as a little kid in the 70s, right after we moved to Costa Mesa. My dad used to take me here, and this was one of the funnest places I've ever been to. So about 20 years ago, because I love this place so much and I continued coming here, I asked if they were hiring, and they hired me on the spot, and I've been here ever since. This is like the greatest job in the world. All this fun on the inside, you can't beat it.
Just be aware that for their safety, give them a little space.
One of the things I love the most about racing, and especially this kind of racing, is the family-friendly atmosphere. Sure, racers will compete against each other on track, and there's rivalries and things like that, but off the track, everybody here is friends. If somebody needs something and they ask another rider and they have it, they'll give it to them, even if they're a competitor. And you just gotta love that kind of atmosphere where everybody's here for each other to help themselves.
I started motocross racing when I was a kid in 1969, and then I was mainly riding I started really going in 1970. I just did one race in '69, and then in the '70s I was racing mainly in Santa Barbara. So that's how I started on mini bikes and go-karts, and then I got into motocross, and then I got into Speedway in 1973. My first race was in 1974. That was at Irwindale. This track is very small, not even probably an eighth of a mile, but it's always stand alone on its own. It's always been the premier track in Southern California. And so I think this is my 47th season, and I was 17 and now I'm 66. It looks maybe easy for people, but it isn't. I'm trying to figure out each turn when I get there and what I'm going to set up to do. So sometimes you don't have a lot of time to think about it, so you just kind of just do it, you know, and it's pretty easy to just do because you got to turn the corner to make it. You don't want to hit the wall.
Welcome to Speedway. It's going to be a hell of a night. Winner takes all. Watch for this guy, Billy Jack, because you guys are going to have a hell of a day.
So these are the same grandstands I used to sit in the 70s when I came here as a little kid with my dad. It's hard to believe they're still the same, but what's great about this is when I come back here, it's like stepping back in time to my childhood. Still the same smells, the dirt, the racing fuel, the racing oil, the excitement hasn't changed, and that's what makes Speedway racing so great in Costa Mesa.
Way back on June 13th, 1969, Costa Mesa Speedway opened its doors, expecting about 500 fans, drew about 1,800 that first night, quickly developed into a 20 event a year program weekly, and drew up to 9,000 people. And tonight, we're super excited to be presenting the 52nd United States National Speedway Championship. And that title also has its origins all the way back in 1969, was won by a guy named Steve Bass.
Just like any type of racing, it's expensive. Although this is a more affordable form of racing than most types of racing, but you still need sponsors and you still need people to help support you. And you can see by a lot of these teams, they have a lot of different companies, a lot of different industries that help support the programs and the racing that happens here. So friends are good to have.
My dad raced sidecars back in the late 80s, early 90s, and I've always kind of been around Speedway, but grew up racing motocross, and then graduated high school and I actually had a friend that was racing Speedway, and he took me out to the dry lake, and the rest has been history. Costa Mesa Speedway is the granddaddy of them all. Impeccable venue and one of the best prep tracks we get to race on. All the riders look forward to coming here and riding, and you know what you're going to get every time, and us riders can put on a good show.
The greatest thing that I think about Costa Mesa Speedway is that it's an affordable thing to do for the whole family. It's totally unlike any kind of amusement park or concerts or anything else you might want to do.
It's a racing tradition. It's great fun. You don't have to know anything about motorsports racing to enjoy it. You can come here once, and the second time bring your neighbor who's never been, and you can be the expert on Speedway because it's just so accessible, and we'd like to see it go on for another 52 years would be wonderful.